The last time when I had the engine open, that was when I changed all the ball bearings. I also ordered new valves, new valve guides and new oil seals for the valves. But the valves were on a back order and I had to wait for 2 or 3 more weeks for them to arrive, and I just couldn't wait. I wanted to start riding the bike again, and that's why I put the new valve guides and the seals, but I put the old valves in the head. Later, when the valves arrived after all, I just put them on the side and I thought that I was gonna change them whenever I have time to do that. Obviously now it's the perfect time to change them, since I'm waiting for the new crankshaft to arrive, and this is what I'm doing here. I'm gonna change the valves, but of course before I change them I have to grind the seats so they can match perfectly the shape of the new valve, so they can match each other and close perfectly. So I stripped the head, I removed the rockers, the camshaft, the old valves. To remove the valves I used my homemade spring compressor. It's just a pair of vice grips with 2 big washers welded at the end, and it works perfectly for that. With the new valve, using a suction cup and grinding compound, I ground the seat. This is how it sounds on a normal speed. I was lifting it for a second every couple of turns, so the compound can go again between the valve and the seat. I was paying extra attention for the compound not to go in the valve guide, because that would be a disaster. And I kept grinding until I got a very nice and even and consistent line all over the valve and on the seat. So that worked very well. I did that for the intake and for the exhaust valves, and then I started assembling it. I used my homemade spring compressor again. It worked like a charm. Then I installed the valve rockers. The good thing with this small engine is that it has just one cylinder, a head, 2 valves, 1 piston, etc. You don't need to deal with everything multiplied by 2 or even by 4. So it's a very nice and easy and fast job. As I showed you in my previous video, there were metal shavings all over the place, so I had to wash carefully all the engine parts, including the ball bearing. I rinsed them until I stopped hearing or actually stopped feeling like a little ticking in the balls. Once I got the package with the new parts, I put everything on the bench and started assembling it one by one. I just wanted to make sure that the crankshaft was exactly the same as mine before I get too far. So I just compared them, and everything was fine. So I started with the assembly. This is not the first time I take apart this engine, as I already said. I took it apart before, once when the piston broke and I had to rebuild everything. Then I changed the cylinder also, and lots of parts. Then later I have to disassemble it again when I changed all the ball bearings. And this is the third time I do that. And still I don't rely 100% on my memories. I have the shop manual open next to me, as you can see, and I check all the time what goes where and when. For example, here the timing chain, I almost forgot to put it on, and if I don't put it before I put all the gears there and everything, I can't put it after. So it's a good thing that I have the book open, and I just followed the procedures. As some people noticed in my previous video, and as you can see here, the clutch hub is missing one of the rods. And that was like that ever since I bought the bike, and I never bothered changing it because it never created any problems for me. But this time I wanted everything to be perfect, so I just ordered a new one. Slipping the magnet on the starter clutch is a little bit tricky, but I managed to put it on. Then I put the gear selector shaft. The gear selector. And then the piston. All that time, ever since the engine broke last summer till now, when I opened it, I was afraid that the piston might be broken because it sounded, when it broke, it sounded like exactly that time when the piston broke, and that would be a real nightmare because when it broke last time, it scratched the cylinder, so I had to change the cylinder. Parts of the rings went into the ball bearings, that's why I had to change all the ball bearings, and it created so much trouble for me that if that was the case this time, I wouldn't even bother rebuilding the engine. But I'm so happy it was just a small problem, so I fixed it, and I hope this time everything is gonna be okay. So here I'm putting the timing chain. It's very important to match the marks on the crankshaft and on the camshaft. Everything should be in top dead center. And then I put the chain tensioner. And then I did the valve adjustment the clearance there must be 0.06 millimeters according to the book, so I did that. And then I started putting the covers. The small valve covers. And then I started dealing with the clutch. If you can notice here, I changed the clutch hub. Almost forgot the bearing. Finally, I'm ready with the engine, and I can put it back on the bike. I decided to install only the parts that are needed for the engine to start, so if something was wrong, I didn't need to disassemble too much to take it out again. But I was lucky and everything went okay. The last thing was to put oil, and next we'll see if it is gonna start. It took some time for the fuel to get into the carb and then into the cylinder, but once that happened, you see it started and it runs very well. It's still cold, so it's not very stable, but once it warms up, it works perfectly. Well, that was it for my bike. Finally, I can put the rest of the parts on, like the chain, the seat, and the saddlebags, and all the stuff. And then I can finally go back to my restoration project, which is my Spitfire, as most of you know. And soon I will be posting a video about it. So I'll see you then. Bye.